The War Council of the Veiltheri Dominion had never known fear. For 6,000 years, their empire had stretched across 47 star systems. They had conquered the silicon-boned Dreth, silenced the psychic Morvani, and reduced the ancient Keth collective to scattered nomads begging for hydrogen at forgotten fuel depots. The Veiltheri did not negotiate. They did not retreat. They sent their strongest, and their strongest always returned victorious, draped in the banners of the broken. Until the humans. Warlord Kael'zer stood at the center of the Dominion's high command chamber, his forearms clasped behind his scaled back, his amber eyes scanning the holographic display with an expression his subordinates had never seen on his face before. Confusion. "Say that again," he said, his voice low and dangerous. Fleet Commander Ervith, a veteran of 11 campaigns, stepped forward, his crest flat against his skull. A submissive posture. A frightened one. "Warlord, the 7th Armada has gone silent. All 900 vessels. The last transmission we received was from Admiral Drenatha's flagship." He said. Ervith paused, swallowing hard. He said the humans were laughing. Silence fell over the chamber like a stone dropped into deep water. Kael'zer turned slowly. "Laughing. Yes, Warlord. My 7th Armada, 900 warships, 3 million soldiers, the finest killing force assembled in the last 2 millennia, was destroyed by creatures who were laughing." Ervith said nothing. There was nothing safe to say. Kael'zer stared at the display for a long moment. The last known position of the 7th Armada glowed red, a graveyard marker in the Kepler corridor, just beyond the edge of human-controlled space. 3 weeks ago, that corridor had been the staging point for the greatest military operation in Veiltheri history. The humans had 42 colony worlds, a primitive jump drive network, and a species history of barely 400 years in space. They should have been nothing. They should have been ash. "Send a scout," Kael'zer said finally. "I want to know what happened." The scout returned in 6 days. Or rather, the scout's ship returned. Automated. Drifting on backup thrusters. The crew of 12 were alive, which surprised everyone. They had been placed, gently, into their own escape pods and launched back toward Veiltheri space. Attached to the hull of their ship was a single data chip and a metal canteen filled with something dark and warm. The data chip contained a single audio message. Kael'zer played it himself, in private. "Warlord Kael'zer. My name is Admiral Darian Voss, commanding officer of the Terran Allied Fleet. I'm returning your scouts as a courtesy. We're not in the business of killing messengers. The canteen contains something we call coffee. I suggest you try it before our next conversation. You're going to need it." A pause. Then. "Your 7th Armada engaged us at 0300 hours, Terran Standard Time. We were outnumbered 11 to 1. I want you to understand something, Warlord, we knew that. We planned for it. My engineers spent 8 months designing a gravitational corridor trap specifically for the tonnage profile of Veiltheri Dreadnought-class vessels. Your ships flew into it in perfect formation. I almost felt bad." Another pause. The sound of something being sipped. "Coffee, perhaps." "Almost. Here is what I need you to understand. Humanity has been preparing for a war with you for 31 years, since your first probe crossed into our outer system and began cataloging our defenses. We watched. We learned. We built. Every doctrine you've developed over 6,000 years, we studied. Every weapon system in your arsenal, we reverse-engineered from salvage and sensor data. Every tactical pattern your commanders favor, yes, including your famous Kael'zer Crescent formation, we drilled against for a decade." Kael'zer's jaw tightened at the mention of his formation. His signature formation. The one that had never failed. Your warlord Drenath was a skilled commander. He recognized the trap at the last moment and tried to collapse the formation. But humans have a saying, good decisions come from experience. Experience comes from bad decisions. Admiral Dranath had never made a bad decision in his career. We had made thousands. We learned from every single one. We are returning your soldiers' remains with full military honors to the coordinates attached to this message. We are not savages. We are, however, done being underestimated. If you send your forces again, we will be ready. We will always be ready. That is not a boast, warlord. It is a species-level psychological trait. Humans do not stop. We do not accept defeat as a permanent condition. We adapt, we persist, and when something tries to destroy us, we get creative in ways that frankly concern even us sometimes. Drink the coffee. Think carefully. Then, if you'd like, talk to us. Admiral Darian Voss, out. Kael'zer listened to the message 3 times. Then he opened the canteen. The smell hit him first, dark, bitter, complex. He drank. It was strange. Harsh. Then warm. Then, inexplicably, clarifying. He sat for a long time. He thought about the Dreth, who had fought with superior numbers and lost. He thought about the Morvani, who had fought with superior technology and lost. He thought about the Keth, who had fought with 6,000 years of accumulated military knowledge and lost. All to the Veil theory. And he thought about 900 ships going silent in a corridor that humans had specifically prepared for 900 ships. 31 years of preparation. 31 years of watching, learning, building, while the Veil theory had assumed the humans were simply too primitive to notice they were being catalogued for conquest. We underestimated them, Kael'zer thought. That is the most dangerous mistake a conqueror can make. He called Ervith back into the chamber. Open a channel, Kael'zer said. Ervith blinked. To whom, warlord? To Admiral Darian Voss. Kael'zer set the canteen down on the edge of the holographic display. And bring me more of this. The channel opened 40 minutes later. Darian Voss appeared on the display, a human male, older, with silver-streaked hair and the kind of eyes that had looked at too many stars and found too many of them dangerous. He was seated at a plain desk. Behind him, through a viewport, the remnants of the Veil Theory 7th Armada drifted in slow, silent orbit, a monument to what had happened when assumption met preparation. He did not gloat. That surprised Kael'zer more than anything. Warlord, Voss said simply. Admiral. Kael'zer studied the human. You had 31 years. We did. You built the trap before we even declared the war. We built it instead of declaring the war, Voss said. We were hoping you'd choose a different path. Some of your kind did. The Veil Theory border colonies in the Thresh sector have been trading with our outer worlds for 15 years. Quietly. Profitably. A pause. Not everything has to end in a graveyard corridor. Kael'zer was silent for a moment. You are not what we expected. No one ever expects us, Voss said, and for the first time, something shifted in his expression, not quite a smile. Something older. Something that had survived. That's our greatest advantage, and our greatest frustration. We keep having to demonstrate it. You said you do not stop. We don't. Even against a force 6,000 years older than your civilization. Voss leaned forward slightly. Warlord Kael'zer. In our history, we have been invaded, conquered, occupied, and nearly wiped out dozens of times, by each other, before we ever left our own planet. Every single time, what came back was worse for whatever tried to break us. He paused. We didn't beat your 7th Armada because we are stronger than you. We beat them because we are afraid of losing, and we have always been more creative under pressure than we are comfortable. A long silence stretched between the stars. Then let us, Kael'zer said slowly, ensure that neither of us is ever in a position to find out how creative the other becomes when their back is against the wall. Voss picked up his coffee. Now that, he said, is a conversation worth having. The Veiltheri-Terran Accord was signed 14 months later. It remains, to this day, the only treaty in Veiltheri history that was initiated by a warlord. Historians on both sides agree on the reason: humanity did not win with superior firepower, or superior numbers, or superior age. They won because they prepared, they adapted, and when 900 ships came to crush them, they laughed.